I'd like to call to order this regular meeting of the City of Sebastian Natural Resource Board for Tuesday, April 4th, 2023. And if we could stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Can we have roll call, please?
Yes. Ms. Billman? Present. Mr. Carano?
Present.
Ms. Ware?
Present.
Mr. Bradley?
Present.
Mr. Stadelman?
Present.
Ms. Callahan?
Present.
Dr. Carrier?
Present.
Dr. Mosblick?
Present.
Thank you.
I'd like to say thanks for everybody for being here, too. We have a full board, and everybody's here on board. It looks really great. Thanks for everybody calling present to your roll call. And can we get a motion for the approval of minutes from March 14th, 2023?
I make a motion that we approve the minutes of March 14th, 2023.
I will second that motion.
And can we get a voice vote for yay for passage of that motion?
Aye.
Yes.
Aye. That motion passes. And we'll move on to item 5, announcements. Is there any announcements from anybody on the board? Anything from the art club today? The only announcement that I have is that the Exchange Club has the memory field going for recognizing the child abuse for this month. So you'll see the white flags flying out at the park, and that's the Exchange Club for Sebastian. And I think Felicia has an announcement.
I just wanted to let you guys know that our Tree City USA signs are now up in 2 of our parks. They include Riverview. You can find the one in Riverview over by the pavilion facing Indian River Drive, and then the other one is going to be in George Street Park. I actually haven't been out to the park to see where exactly that one is located, but now they're up and they have our 21-year stickers on them to show that we've been Tree City USA participants for the past 21 years. So. Yay!
Yay! Congratulations. Now that's saying that the city of Sebastian has been Tree City USA for 21 years consecutively, basically?
I believe so, yes.
That's a long time.
I have a curiosity question about that. I notice when I drive into Vero on Route 1 that they have a sign and it has the number of years, and it's prominent as you cross into the city boundary. Any chance that we could get it in a location where there will be more car traffic to come through, as well as where it is? And I'm happy that we have what we do.
Where is that one again?
Right.
That one's as you're coming into Sebastian from Vero? Or?
I'm saying that Vero has a sign about Vero as
Right.
you drive south on Route 1 into Vero.
Okay.
And I was wondering if we could almost.
Yeah, have one on the other side for
But
Sebastian?
I know that there is property in between where that sign is and where we start our boundary. So I'm not saying it's back to back, but.
Right, maybe with our next Tree City USA certification, maybe there's a chance we can acquire more signs. So I'll make a note of that and see if we can, yeah, I don't know, I don't honestly know what it takes to acquire the signs. These are signs that we had since Kim was here, and the stickers they had just sent to us not long after I had become the environmental tech, because I'd applied for the Tree City certification again. So I'm not sure what she did to get the signs themselves, but I'll make sure that we get signs and the stickers for the correct number of years, you know, with this next time, and see what we can do.
Excellent. That's really good work. Are there any additional announcements from anybody? Okay, seeing none, we'll move on to item 6, agenda modifications. I don't believe there is any. We'll move on to item 7, public input. Is there any public input? Anything on Zoom?
There's nobody on Zoom.
You know, that's kind of a good thing because they're not all here, but it's kind of a bad thing because we're not seeing the participation that we usually like to see. And we like to see everybody here, and whether it's a good thing you're saying or a bad thing, we'd still like to see you. And then we'll move on to item 8, our unfinished business. And this is our big thing for Earth Day planning. And we'll go over to planning review. Miss Felicia Gordon.
Righty, so I have a copy of the Earth Day plans in front of me. Now, of course, some of you might know that I have to give you guys a copy of the plans with the agenda. And then after I send out the agenda and it's all finalized, there may be updates to it. So I may have some things on here that you guys might not necessarily have, but if you want, I can always share a copy of this with you, and I'll make sure you guys have a copy of the final plans before Earth Day itself, so that way you have everything, you know, where everybody else is gonna be and all the important details for that. Just to start off, for this time, it's been made apparently very clear to me that dogs are not going to be allowed in Riverview Park. And it's just a general rule of thumb that they're not allowed in the parks. And if anybody happens to come into the park during the event with their dogs, we must gently ask them to take their dog out of the park. And
Can I ask a question on that?
yeah,
I mean, I hate being a Debbie Downer, but last year that wore me out, getting the dogs out of the park. And we had a couple of serious incidences, actually, where one dog jumped up on somebody, 2 dogs started a fight, and one dog just made a mess in the middle of the green space in front of everybody. But it wore me out to chase down everybody's dog. And because I'm the MC, I'm actually on stage and I get to see it. So I have to basically stop what I'm doing to go ask these people first, is it a service animal? Because they are allowed to bring their service animals. Now, that's a whole nother question, because they're basically just getting tags for dogs, maybe, or cats, or they call pretty much everything a service animal. You could have a snake, and it all depends. But I don't want to go chasing against, you know, these people with the dogs. So I'm going to say this year, basically all I'm going to do is I'm going to ask the police officer that's standing over here to please enforce this rule, so that I'm not being the one that has to enforce the rule, and I would like some guidance on that.
yeah. I do have to let you know, I mean, I don't know if you had taken a look at, I believe I included a copy, one of the versions of the maps. We will have volunteer police officers stationed with us, and they'll be stationed at very specific locations. So I don't know if there's gonna be any officers around nearby during the day that you would be able to just turn to and be like, hey, so-and-so has a dog, can you help? If you guys are familiar with Bub Millen or Merbert Millen, he is our Parks and Recs guy who's going to be helping us throughout the entire day, and he's going to be our point person for if we have any issues in the park, such as if somebody comes in with a dog and is, you know, we have any, like if they refuse to take the dog away or something, you know, if anything comes up like that, he's going to be our person to go to first for that kind of stuff. And also, because of what you said, like, oh, I have to stop doing what I'm doing as the MC, hopefully you won't have to do that, because I'm gonna make sure, we only have like 6 walkie-talkies, but I figured if we have walkies on every few of you, and then if I have one on my person, then we can kind of make sure that we're keeping in touch with each other throughout the day. And if you see something from stage, you're like, hey, you know, Felicia, there's a guy over by the concrete pad or whatever who's got a dog, then, you know, I can run over there, or one of the other board members can run over there. And we're also gonna have a few other city staff members there as well during the day, so they can also help out with that if need be.
It's a confrontation that the people who bring the dogs are already kind of confrontational people. And it's just something I don't want to have to deal with again this year.
Yeah, I completely understand.
Okay, that's great.
Sharda?
That's all I got on that.
Could I add to that? I know that every event I go to, if you happen to bump into a sign, if you just happen to go in that way, that'll say no pets allowed. Would it be better if we have several signs saying that no pets allowed, you will be asked to leave? You know, unless it's a certified service dog, you know what I mean?
Right, I hear you. I don't know if we could, like, have another sign, like, make it maybe just an H stand sign or something,
They
something
just
that's
put up
simple
some new
to-
signs. They just did put up some new signs. They're big, they're right there at the entrance. They're not all over the park.
But, you know, but people come in not just through the main entrance.
Yeah.
So they have to be kind of in areas that, well, they're eventually gonna bump into it, like by the restrooms or wherever. But, I mean, I take my dog with me everywhere, but you know what? If it says no dogs, I don't take them in,
Yeah,
you know? But a lot of people just, whatever, you know? And, so, yeah, even in the stores now, you know, and the employees, no matter where you go, you're always gonna see somebody with their dog. And it can be a large dog, just not a service dog, walking around, but the employees are not allowed to confront them or ask them to leave, from what I understand. So it's a real, anyway. But I think if we have, if you do bring your dog, you will be asked to leave or something like that. Something that has repercussions other than saying no dogs allowed.
Is there any additional questions on that? Thank you for bringing that up, Felicia.
Sorry, I just
Oh,
have a quick
go ahead,
question.
Ms.
I
Mosley.
apologize. Is this the no dogs allowed in Riverview Park? This is for just events, when events are being held, or is this?
it's supposed to be for general reasons, but specifically during events, they're trying to enforce
Gotcha.
the
Okay.
no dogs.
Okay.
Yeah, and particularly during events, I think because of the fact that there's gonna be so many more people around, that there's a greater chance of incidences happening. Trying to take extra precautions against that.
Thank you for that. Is there any other questions on that from anybody? All right, we'll keep on moving along with our update.
All righty, so we have, as of the time that I sent out the agenda packet, we had had 67 vendors, 4 food vendors, 43 retail vendors, and 20 nonprofits and organizations. As of today, we have 4 food vendors with 1 prospective food vendor that we're working with on completing her application, which would be wonderful if she does complete the application process, because then we would actually have a food truck that has regular food and not just cold drinks. So, of the 4 food vendors that we do have, and actually also I think that number, now that I'm thinking about it, I think I have that number written down incorrectly, because we do have a food vendor who is a booth vendor and not a food truck vendor, so I might have been, when I wrote that down, I might have been thinking of it in terms of, I was thinking of it in terms of the trucks rather than the booths, so that's my bad. But we do have 1 prospective food truck. We have another prospective vendor who sent in their application earlier today for retail vendors, and then we have 21 nonprofits and organizations. That's a mix of environmental organizations and just other, you know, health-related organizations, or just a variety of organizations. I guess it's hard to put into words what groups, but you know, environment, health. I believe we have Bike Walk is also one of the participants. TCCH is one of the participants, for example. And you actually have that list of all those organizations except for the 21st in your vendor packet. So that's great. I'm going to be cutting off applications this week. No more food vendor applications after this week, because or after tomorrow, because I have to submit to the state all the food vendor, the list of the food vendors in particular. And so if I don't have those food vendor license numbers and all their information by tomorrow, then I'm not accepting anybody else because the state needs that information. All right. And then on the 10th, I'm going to completely cut off, officially cut off vendor applications, although I'm fairly certain that we've gotten to a place where we don't necessarily have room. I'm still finagling with the mapping right now, but the map is mostly complete, and most of the vendors have their locations. There's just a few things that need to be tweaked and adjusted. Potentially, there might be room for more if Ross, our GIS tech, and I go out into the field and find, because we might actually set foot on the ground in Riverview Park and try and figure out more accurate version of the event layout than we've had in the past, because it's kind of been done from kind of an aerial perspective. So we're gonna see if maybe we can map things out to the T and see how much room we actually have in the park, which will also help the city with other events going forward. So thank you guys for all your help when it comes to acquiring the vendors, and I know a lot of these vendors are ones that have come back from previous years. We do have a lot of new vendors, so that's really exciting. So I'm looking forward to see all of them there. All the waste management stuff is set up, and I've been including their buck slips in all of my postings for the events. So that information is out there for the public, and it's also on the City of Sebastian website as well for people to find.
Felicia, could we get you to send a specific request to everybody participating to do their mass mailing to include our Earth Day flyer? Say, hey, look, we got Earth Day. Get them to promote it to their customers. Like if it's the food truck and they got out a mass mailing, say, hey, look, everybody, I'm doing this food truck thing down at the Earth Day. If you could just send them a little note saying, hey, look, why don't you promote this?
Right, actually, you're kind of what is the phrase? Hit the nail on the head. Thank you. Because in our response emails to the vendors, in like their acceptance email, we ask that they promote Earth Day through their whatever platforms they use. And so they've been getting copies of just the main flyer, and also I believe the waste management flyers as well. So each vendor gets that every time that they get accepted, and then also I'll make note of that again, and I'll ask them to do it when I send out the vendor packets, and make sure that they get copies of the flyers as well as just a little notice, be like, hey, we don't have much time left, make sure you promote it, wherever you can, if possible, if they're willing to do so.
Thank you very much. Does anybody have any additional questions for retail food vendor part?
I just want to say one quick thing. Felicia, I'm really impressed with your lists, how you've done this with the vendors and everything. I wasn't here in the past, but I just say it really is very helpful and thorough. So kudos to you.
Thank you. And actually, I think the kudos goes to Ron Paul. He's been our spreadsheet guy for this, and he has been absolutely incredible in helping us
really nice.
get this all set up and in such a way that is really easy to understand. And also, you can't see it here because I only printed out the main spreadsheet, but he also isolated for each spreadsheet the vendors that are going to be doing the hosting activities of their own, and he isolated the ones that will be donating prizes so that we have that list. And from those lists, I'll also be compiling those as lists to show the public, so that way the public can see when it comes to the raffle which vendors are giving out prizes, so maybe they'll be more intrigued to win something. Like, oh, my favorite person is going to be giving a prize, so then they'll be more interested in entering. And then also for the kids' activities, to kind of almost create like a directory to show parents and the kids where the special activities are, so that way they know where to go. I think Kim had done that in the past. I don't know if she did it for last year, but I know I had seen evidence of it maybe from one of the previous events a while ago. So,
can I make a suggestion maybe for the activity booths, maybe to have a balloon, like a green balloon, so that they know just by, oh, there's something over here to do.
Right. I know that we have H-stand signs for our activity, like I think for the Be a Gopher Tortoise thing, I think we have a sign for that. For the vendors themselves, I don't know if that's something the vendors would be willing to do.
And we try to avoid the balloons.
Oh, that's true. I'm
Yeah,
sorry, but
that's okay. No, absolutely. Speak up.
something that's
Or something similar, like a, cardboard sign. Looks like a balloon.
Yeah, maybe, I don't know if, maybe it's.
There we go. Silly guy.
Maybe, I don't know if we'll be able to do it for this year, but for next year, that's definitely a good idea. Just because I don't know what we could do that would be feasible to get somebody's attention and draw them to each booth, unless we drew on the concrete in front of them, be like, if you see this green marking, green chalk on the concrete in front of the booth, then you know that's a kids activity
Well,
vendor.
what we actually do, Yeah,
like
right.
chalk art and just do arrow activities.
Well, what we do is on stage, I actually point out the vendors and where the different activities are. So I'll say, over here at the front of Riverview Park, we're doing whatever event's going on, and I'll direct them. We do a lot of that as
That's
well.
what I'm saying, like if on the sidewalk, you could have like a chalk, like an arrow, so that it'd be big, and it'll point to that way the activity will be marked that way.
Yeah, anything could help.
Yeah.
We're gonna see you down there painting all these arrows
Well,
on
don't we have volunteers?
Any other questions on any of that, guys? Thank you for all that work, Felicia. And we can move on to environmental organizations, or however you want to move on to.
Environmental organizations, we're good there. It's basically, they're essentially lumped in with the retail and food vendors information. So there's nothing that we need to worry about there. Waste management stuff, we're good there. Nothing that we need to worry about. Just a reminder to you guys to remind people who are interested in the event, if you're talking to anybody about it, that part of the waste management event is going to be at the Barber Street Sports Complex and not at Riverview. So if they're looking for a particular, for a particular thing, then you know where to direct them to. I don't know if I had included the waste management flyers in here, in the packet. If I didn't, that's my bad. But I believe the shredding and the electronic recycling is what's going to be at Riverview. Everything else is going to be at Barber Street. So, and that's going to be in the portion where the football fields and the skate park are, not on the baseball park side of the complex.
What exactly are they gonna do over there? Because we're doing the shredding part, and they're gonna do the recycling.
That's gonna be like the large household
Right.
goods. So there's gonna be like, if somebody has old appliances that they're trying to get rid of, that's the kind of thing that they can bring there. Yeah, and I think it's just gonna be a couple people and one of their trucks, from Waste Management Station there, as far as I understand it.
And then what they've been doing is that they'll give us their breakdown afterwards, and we kind of count up the tonnages as, part of what we're trying to do here, just keep track of our Earth Day efforts.
And hopefully we'll be able to, go over that at our post-Earth Day meeting.
Is there any additional comments on waste management, anybody?
I have a comment. It's the yellow highlighted item. Do we still need to have someone from that's on the NRB to go check over there on Barber Street? 'Cause
Yes, please and thank you, if someone is willing to take on that task. And actually, if in your agenda packet, there is a schedule of assignments that I've created, and that we need to continually be referring to during this meeting, so that we know who's going to be where when for this meeting. Or not for the meeting, for the day of Earth Day, sorry. So is there anybody who'd be willing to part from the event just for, 5-10 minutes to drive over there? And Charles is kind of stuck at the park because he's got to be there every hour on the hour on stage. So I guess for you, it's not really an option, but if there's anybody else who's willing to, and it would just be maybe once or twice during the day that somebody would have to run over there and just take a peek. Say, hey, how's it going? Okay, you're good. And come back to the park and rejoin the rest of us.
And if we can't decide today, we can still work this out between now and then. So somebody could just be there and say, hey, look, why don't you take a ride over there and let us know what you see? Because it's not a permanent station, right?
No, it's not a permanent station. It would just be for however long it takes to drive, check on them, and come back.
Gotcha.
So maybe 10,
It's
15
the
minutes.
coming back that's the issue.
Is that you don't want to come
Once
back?
you lose your parking spot,
Yeah,
that's the
yeah.
problem.
Parking lot, yeah.
Yeah, that's completely a fair point. I honestly hadn't considered that. And for that day, that's going to be possibly quite an issue.
And we can figure out the logistics on that too. We can actually maybe get one of our volunteers that we haven't really spoken to yet. There's other people still coming to this party.
Right, so maybe if there is, an individual adult volunteer, or somebody of driving age who is willing to drive over there, that would be helpful. But I think it'd be best if it was one of you guys, so that way it's kind of, I want to say more controlled, because it would be, within our realm, rather than sending somebody who's just just a volunteer. All they've done is, sign a little form for us, whereas we're more invested in the process and whatnot. And there's something I'm trying to get out, but I'm not finding the words for it, but I hope you understand what I'm trying to say.
Oh, absolutely, and we'll deal with that, between now and then or the day of, but we'll have somebody with a city shirt on showing up there, going, hey, what's going on? Thank you.
And maybe also by the end of this meeting, we'll be able to figure out who is going to be where, when, because I just want to make sure I know. And so if we go through everything, we're like, oh, okay, so-and-so, Donna's going to be here, Nikki's going to be there. And then we'll determine, which one of you guys out of the lot, can actually go, because then we'll have everything else kind of set in stone.
And remember, it's gonna be a fluid situation. All the plans that we make, yeah. And if you can feel it out like that, you'll be happy when we're all done, because it does get kind of crazy that day. Is there any additional questions on waste management? Seeing none, we'll move on to Art Club. Ms. Donna.
Okay, so I did talk to Ruth earlier about having some volunteers help with transporting art into the booths that we're going to be set up on, because it'll be early in the very first thing in the morning and the last thing at night. If we could have like 3 extra volunteers. I cannot sit at the NRB booth except for maybe sometime in the afternoon at like around lunchtime if somebody wants to go, because I'll be involved with the poster contest, and we're also going to do a People's Choice voting going on the art that's going to be there. So
that's cool.
That's going to take a lot, to set up and putting all the paintings up and putting all the posters up. So, like, you have me on the schedule here, so you're going to have to, like, you can move me to, like, 11 a.m. or 12 p.m. from 7 a.m. on the, you have me at the NRB booth at 9 a.m. I'm not going to be able to do that.
Okay, so you're saying that for, like, being stationed at the booth is not really going to happen for you
Right.
throughout the day? Okay,
Like I
that's
said,
fine.
I can come and sit, like, if everybody has to go and do their things for like an hour or something, but the rest of the time I'm going to have to be, and I'm right across from where the booth is. I'm not that far away, so they can come and get me.
Yeah, so if we need you, yeah, and maybe because you'll be kind of separate from us physically throughout the day, maybe it'd be good to make sure you have a walkie on you in case.
Well, I'm close enough to the booth that I can go over there and tell whoever's there.
Yes, but you'll need a couple volunteers, like, for us to designate a few people.
She's got it. Ruth's got it.
Sweet.
So other than that, I think we're in good shape. We have to see who's going to come for the seed packets. If that's further down on the list, or whether we want to do it now.
Yeah, that is further down on the list. I mean, we can essentially tackle that now or just get to it when we get to it. But that is something we're going to have to address during this meeting. Yeah, because, and I did, I had asked you guys for your input as to what days and times would be best for you. I had thrown out the Tuesday dates as kind of, it worked best, those kind of days worked best for me, but it's also kind of arbitrary, so I can make it work if there's a better days or times that work for you guys as well. But yeah, if we want to, we can just get to it when we get to that part of the packet, and then we'll go from there.
Okay,
All right.
I'm good.
All right, so I believe we're good with our club stuff, so we know where you're going to be during the day, Donna, and I'm curious to see how the People's Choice thing for the art club turns out, because that sounds exciting. So I'm looking forward to it. All right. Nikki, I know that a while ago we talked about you reaching out to Alexis Peralta at IRC Stormwater about chalk art. Is that something that you happen to talk to her about, or?
I was, and I apologize for not getting back to you earlier, especially because I wasn't able to come last month. I reached out to her, and she said, unfortunately, she will be out of town, so she'll be on vacation and so won't be able to hold the chalk art contest. She would have loved to do it, so she said please keep her on the agenda for future years. It just doesn't work out with her vacation schedule.
Okay, so we'll move on from there.
Alrighty, so we're moving on. Everything is good with the beer as far as I know, so we're doing good there, no worries. The fire unit is going to be, from the county, is going to be on standby during the day, so they'll be there from 8:30 to 4 p.m. It's a non-exclusive rescue standby, so that means that if something was to come up in the area that they were required to go to, they would leave us. But otherwise, they'll be there throughout the entire day. All right, and then the City of Sebastian event permit stuff, that's on me. Once we have the final vendor spreadsheets and whatnot, I'm going to be submitting that to the city to go with our permit. And the state food vendor notice is what I talked about with the food vendors. That's why I'm cutting off the food vendor applications, and I won't be accepting any more past tomorrow, because we really need to submit to the state and let them know who's going to be there, and then that way they'll have somebody come down the day of the event and kind of do a little inspection to make sure that everybody's got what they need to have, all their license numbers displayed properly, that they've got the proper equipment, that they're set up like they're supposed to, and that sort of thing. So that's why that's happening. All right. For the entertainment, you should have, I believe it's actually the very last page of the packet, you should have the entertainment schedule. Everything is going according to plan there, so hopefully that turns out well. Of course, being that this is my first time being involved with entertainer-related things for an event, I'm a little nervous, but hopefully it'll go well, and if there's anything that goes wrong, we'll know better for next year.
Well, if it helps you, all the entertainers are used to something going wrong. So even though you're nervous, these guys here, they're ready for something to go wrong, especially people like the band coming from the school. Mm-hmm. Something's always going wrong with those people. So you'll be fine.
All right. And I was also considering, I don't know if any of you know the exact number, but I figured I'd ask if you know how long or how many years Mojo Mike and Robert Johnson have been performing at Earth Day. Do you know? I know it's been like 5 or 6 years for them each. I'm just not sure which years, or what, if it was consecutive or whatever. I was just thinking of doing something to be like, hey, thank you for doing this for so long. And
I feel like Brian might know, Brian O'Neill.
And you can ask the performers themselves,
Mm-hmm.
too. Say, hey, look, how long have you been doing this?
Yeah, just to find out, and I don't know, just give them like a little, almost, I want to say like a little paper plate award, but maybe something a little bit nicer than that. I was even considering, we have so many vendors that have been willing to donate prizes for Earth Day, that I was considering that if we maybe talk to Mojo Mike and Robert Johnson and say, hey, who's your favorite vendor? Pick one of the prizes, and that would be, our little thank you to them for all that they've done for us for the past few years. So, I don't know how you guys feel about that. That's why I bring it up.
They never really mentioned that. I've never really seen any of the entertainers approach it like that. They like getting paid, because a couple of these guys are, they get paid. And they like the appreciation from the audience when they actually show up. So the more people we can get there, the other stuff I think would just be, ancillary and maybe not as much valuable as we think it would be. But it's a good idea. We can think about it between now and then. But yeah, I would like to recognize them if we can figure out how long.
Yeah, just some sort of recognition for them for their years of service.
Oh.
Sharida? No, never mind. Oh.
Can I make one circle back real quick to the chalk art thing? I apologize for moving on from that. We're just going through so many things. Do we want to do the chalk art? Do we want to find somebody else to do?
I think so, a little late now,
I think so too, but I just wanted to ask. Okay, all right.
I
Well,
mean, the most that I could see us doing is if we want to designate volunteers to watch a spot on the sidewalk and let the kids have at it. We do have a little bit of chalk. We don't have a lot, but we do have some chalk left in our supplies that we could, and there is a good spot. If you look at the Earth Day map, the western pathway coming out of the park headed towards US 1, between booths 9 and 8, there's that area where there's no booth there, you know, maybe that wouldn't be a bad spot to have, you know, them designated to just draw on the sidewalk if they want to.
I don't, I just have some issues as far as there will be people there in walkers and people being pushed in wheelchairs and, you know, I don't know where, they're gonna ride right over the, I mean, I was trying to picture where you were gonna do, I thought it was gonna be down on the concrete pad, away from the traffic itself, rather than in the middle of everybody walking.
That's fair.
Because at some point, I know from experience that there's 4 people across on the walkway, you know, walking around. The people bring their families, you know, it's like 5 and 6 people in a family walking down the walk. And the booths are right there at the edges, and I just don't think you can have a chalk contest on the walkway itself. So just for.
well, that's okay. I just wanted to bring it up just to be sure, and we can move on from there. But thank you for your concern.
I think in the past, Alexis has always done it over near the water. I know she hasn't, she's been out of town a couple years, but she did it over by, like where the dock area is.
Oh,
So it was away from traffic, et cetera. Yeah.
Okay, we'll move on to, if there's any other questions from anybody? We'll move on to NRB website, which is awesome.
So I don't know if you guys have seen it. I have been doing my best to keep it updated. I do have just tidbits of information on there. I put all the flyers up there that I have right now. I have the vendor application, like cutoff dates on there. I also have the please don't bring dogs on the website as well. I also, in one of our most recent Facebook posts, I also added please don't bring your dogs. Just to try and put that out there as many times as possible so people might see it. If there's anything that needs to go on the website that I haven't covered yet, if you guys happen to take a look, just let me know. Be like, hey, this is missing. Be like, okay, I'll fix it and get to it as soon as I can. So, but if you guys don't have any comments on that,
I do have one comment, because I will be collecting the posters from the kids on the 17th. And last year we didn't do it, and Kim was like kicking herself that we really would like to scan them and then put them up on the website. You know, so I have to put them on backing board. So I don't know if I can get it to you that week, later that week, like Thursday maybe, but you'd have to be able to do it. You'd have to scan them rather quickly, and I don't know if you would have somebody else that would be able to help you with that. Because right now we have 3 grades, and last year we had 2 grades, and we had 10 from each grade. So that was 20 posters. So this year I'm thinking we're going to have 30 posters, because they were all very, very excited about it. So I'm trying to encourage that. So the only other thing I could suggest is we don't have scanners that big.
We do, actually. We have scanners that would work.
Yeah.
I have to figure out which scanners where and what building. If I know we might have a scanner here that's big enough. If not, there might be one at the compound that I could use. They would probably require that they not be on any sort of backing, because I think they're the kind that I'd have to slide the entire poster through.
So we could do it as soon as I get them. That would be the 17th.
Okay.
I could bring them over, but you know, it'll take me a whole day to put them all on backing, because we can't hang them in the tents just as the paper. So we have to give them something. So anyway, I mean, we can do it after the show, after everything's over, but it would be nice to at least, you know, to have that possibility that we can do it. So it's a want but not a must.
Yeah, and I don't know if they were from last year's. I know Kim had some sort of poster reel posted on the website, and she had like a slideshow that would show some of the kids' posters. I don't know, it wasn't all of the posters, I'm presuming.
No, it was probably just the winners.
Yeah, So, but if we wanted to do it with all the kids' posters, it's
Yeah.
definitely a possibility, because she was able to create the slideshow, so I'm sure I'd be able to figure out, or if not, I could just ask MIS for help with that.
Okay, all
But
right.
yeah,
well,
no, I think that's
just
definitely a
put that on your
possibility.
calendar.
Yeah,
Okay.
so you said around the
The
17th?
17th, yeah.
Okay, and because that'll be the week of the event, right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
the Monday of, yeah. I know, you'll be biting your fingernails.
Does anybody have any additional questions? All right, seeing none, we'll move on to raffle.
All right, so for the raffle, we've got the sign that Marcus gave me, for, just to have at the booth, be like, hey, this is how you sign up for the event, or for the raffle. If, well, not if, sorry, like I said before, I'm going to print out a list of all the vendors that are donating prizes, so that way, people can take a look and say, oh, I love this vendor, hopefully I win their prize. If there's, 20, 30 vendors, maybe even 40 or so that are donating prizes, I don't know, if they'll necessarily get the one they want, especially because I think it was just one big bucket, right, that you guys had for the raffle. I know that for the scavenger hunt, I believe there's also a separate, like, bucket that you guys had for drawing the winners for that. So, yeah, I mean, otherwise, we're good for the raffle. I'm gonna make sure that I have the city tablet with me for the event, so we can text people through the tablet if that's easier. If not, we can text you guys, whoever wants to take that on and text from your own phone. I know, Ruth, you had brought up the good point that, not necessarily everybody has a City of Sebastian, or, like, local zip code, and so, it's more recognizable to be like, oh, hey, this is a City of Sebastian with the City of Sebastian zip code. But if you guys have any feedback on that for me, otherwise, I think we're doing really well there, so.
Does anybody have any questions on that?
I have one comment, thanks for getting the poster about, what the raffle is. Can you make sure that the word gift baskets
Oh,
is
It's
not?
gifts, not gifts
It,
back.
it is, yeah, it's something, but it's not necessarily a basket.
Right, yeah.
It could be a piece of art, it could be
Mhm.
tickets, it could,
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, no, I'll make sure that that we've got that down. And actually, we do have, I mean, just funnily enough, because this kept coming to mind when I was seeing some of the vendors' prizes come in, like, oh, we do have a gift basket come in. So it's kind of right, but it's kind of not, because it has to be just gifts across the board. But that was just me, my silly inner monologue.
And just for my clarification or understanding, we still will have the tickets that they can write their name and number on as the system, right?
Yes, we still have the reel of tickets. It's still a fairly large reel, so I don't know if we'll maybe have to buy more for next year, but we'll figure that out after this Earth Day.
And relative to being there every hour to be able to help out with volunteers, as well as doing the drawings for the raffle, or for the, for the raffle, that will require presence most of the time at the booth for me.
Okay, so you'll be stationed there pretty much throughout the day. I mean, you're
Yeah.
more than, if you want to, we can kind of switch you guys up, so you're not stuck at the booth all day. Like, you can go take on another activity if you prefer, but if you're comfortable doing that and just staying stationed there, that's perfectly fine with me.
I can say volunteers do take a lot of time, let's put it that way.
Oh.
Any additional questions on our raffle? All right, seeing none, we'll move on to the MOC.
All right, so Charles, I'm trusting you that you know what to do, because you've been doing this for the past few years.
I can talk.
So, if there's anything in particular that, I don't know if you need anything drafted to talk about, or if you need, like, vendors to highlight or whatever, I can give you that information. Just let me know what I need to give you.
Well, I need to remember to mention our sponsors more often, Sebastian Daly, and of course the Natural Resource Board, and whoever else is our main sponsor. Sebastian Daly is really promoting everything, so And then, of course, the vendors, the list, I'll just keep on going down the list and whatever they tell me to say. And
Yeah. You can, I mean, if you wanted to, you could give a shout out to the Rotary Club because they will be helping us with the beer. You could give a shout out to the Art Club, and then also because the Fine Arts Festival is supporting the prizes for the Fine Arts Festival, then that would be worth mentioning as well.
Good,
And
excellent, thank you.
yeah, so that's what I can think of off the top of my head, but if I come up with anything else, I'll definitely send it your way.
Because I can tell you by 3 o'clock, you're running out of stuff to talk about. But this year, actually have, I'm most prepared for it, so. Just, well, we got the dogs taken care of. I was so out of breath last year. Okay, anything else with the MOC? I'm good. Anybody else got any questions? And then we'll move on to Be a Gopher Tortoise. Who's our newest member? Felicia is our newest member.
Yeah, I have not seen the Be a Gopher Tortoise thing, so
Right, we know
I don't know
that.
what that is like.
That's
I've just seen the
good. Good
supplies.
thing, right.
That's all I know about it, and
You'll
what I've talked to Jeff about.
Fit quite well through the hole. The biggest thing is getting somebody to pick it up and then getting it set up.
I'll pick it up, transport it, and return it.
Can you do your mic, sir?
Thought it was on. I'll pick it up, transport it, and take it back, and then I think you and I and Thomas blundered through setting this bloody thing up, but it'll be volunteers that run it. My
Right.
days of crawling through that tunnel are long gone.
It's quite fun, but it really is. You'll notice that the kids really like it, and we'll get somebody to crawl through it.
Would you be willing to educate one of our volunteers? Because I think we just had them there and it wasn't, they couldn't provide any additional value other than being there.
Yeah, Felicia and I talked about this before the meeting, and I recall the first year the first year I volunteered to do this, there was a brochure, a laminated sheet that had some basic information about gopher tortoises, the ecology of tortoise burrows and the like. And I couldn't find a copy of it. Felicia hasn't run across it, so I told her I'd put one together, laminate it, and then we'll pass that on to the volunteers that do it and try to pack it up with the materials so that it's a fact sheet and gee whiz biology, which is the best kind of biology. And so I'll have something prepared on that day. I just won't run the Be a Gopher Tortoise. I have been one.
And there'll be plenty of people there volunteering. I believe the Boys and Girls Club will be there again this year. There's always been a lot of volunteers, and we'll have that direction there. But I really like your suggestion about getting more value on the education part of it. You're right about that. A lot of times we're having too much fun with these things.
One of the other things we talked about was trying to get one of the local zoos or rehab centers and whatnot to actually bring a gopher tortoise down and have it for show and tell. It's something about having a live animal there when you're talking about its biology that makes it that much more valuable. The extent to which we can do that, I don't know, but it might be something that we try to look at between now and next year.
Good suggestion. Is there any other comments on Be a Gopher Tortoise?
For the Be a Gopher Tortoise stuff, the biggest thing I need to know is where this is going to be located. Because as far as I understood, I think on Kim's old maps, she had like a spot designated for it, but being that, I believe actually I have my proposed location for you guys on the new most recent updated maps. Oh, I guess I don't, I'm sorry, I did not send you that version. That's my bad.
It was actually right across the sidewalk from the table, because from time to time, it would be empty. There wouldn't be anybody who was trying to be a gopher tortoise. So when people showed up, then one of us would walk across the sidewalk. So having it proximal to the NRB tables was a valuable kind of thing, so that we could staff it when it was needed.
Okay,
And we're just to the west of the stage.
yeah,
So
what
if you're
I've,
looking at it, we're on the right.
yeah, what I've done is that I've put you guys, if you look at your map, I have you on spots 5 through 8, which is directly across from where the art club is going to be. because the art club will be spots 34, 35, and 36. And then whatever adjacent tree they prefer to also put their stuff around. And so I don't know if you want to put the spots or the gopher tortoise stuff closer to on the US 1 side of the NRB booth.
No, it's gotta be directly in front because it really is interactive between the booth and us because it's so much work. And there's parts to it that I have a habit of walking off. So put us next to the stage like we are because that's
If I
convenient.
remember, Charles, that's sloped.
It is sloped.
That's a terrible place to be,
You didn't-
especially if you're there all day long.
Well, with the gopher tortoise or with our?
No, with us sitting on that slope
Right.
it was painful by the end of the day.
Where would you like to put it then? Because that's very visible. And then that's really what even though it is sloped and stinks, you're right.
And
But
also, you guys had requested last time, at the last meeting, that you not be near,
Not to be close
not to be close to the
yeah.
stage, which is why
Loud.
I wanted to put you guys over between 5 and 8 in those booths. So I'm happy to put be a gopher tortoise as close as possible to the booth. I just need to know where.
With as few vendors as we have, I mean, we have in excess of 80 spots that I think we mark out, if I remember in the past. Perhaps we could keep the first 3 or 4 empty so that the very first table to the west of the stage is the NRB table, and keep spots 1, 2, 3, and 4, if that's what you have. Maybe keep those vacant so that the first thing people see adjacent to the stage is us. And that moves us far enough away to where the noise might be filtered out a little bit by distance. That was a big concern we had at the last meeting.
yeah, we were deaf by the end of the day, and the slope is pretty severe there too.
Yeah. And with the mapping that I've done so far, trying to assign people's locations, I pretty much have almost all these spots filled, at least as it is on the map right now.
Well,
So-
is each box 10 by 10?
Yes.
Isn't that what our tent? So if we took spot number 7, we could put the gopher tortoise in number 8.
Next to us.
And that area of the park is a lot flatter, if that makes
Right,
any
well, if we
difference
took
for
number
you.
6, the gopher tortoise could be number 5. I don't think that would be a problem.
And the trees also, like on the map, the trees look, they're just these little circles, but, you might be able to finagle something where you can work around the tree or it's more visible because the tree isn't necessarily impeding anything. It may impede a booth being in that spot, but not necessarily the
I think
activity.
it's just as easy if it's next to us, whether it's across from us or next to us, doesn't make any difference.
Yeah, as long as it's somewhere where we can get to it quickly if we have to.
Right, and, I mean, because that whole pathway heading west out of the main loop, there's no booths there, so all of that space is available, and it's fairly visible for, to have be a gopher tortoise activity in that region too, if that's something you want to consider.
Yeah, we have almost,
Any other comments?
we have almost 60 feet to put our
Right.
tent in our,
And it's flat,
right.
which would be nice. Any other comments on any of that? We'll take it then.
We'll make it work.
Yeah.
Yeah, and if we need to, the day of, we'll play with it.
Yeah, everything can be changed at the last moment if we have to. Okay, great, fantastic. Move right along then. That's the end of gopher tortoise. Scavenger hunt then?
All right, so we do have a document that I'll share with you guys. Nikki had sent me some question ideas. We'll just go through this list. And if you guys have any objections to any of the questions or any comments, anything that we need to make note of, otherwise, I'm happy to go with what we've got. So, yeah.
Now these questions this is the scavenger hunt, these questions, or?
This is the questions that Nikki proposed for the scavenger hunt.
Awesome.
And My one comment is that if we could somehow tie these questions in with the idea of them traveling to a place in the park to answer them. I'm not necessarily sure how we would achieve that, so I'm open to suggestions. Yeah, I don't know if we just want to go through each one, just start at the top and talk about each one and go down, or what do you guys think?
No, not really. I don't think we have to do that, because that's just a scavenger hunt for them to go find out.
Mhm.
And, I mean, does anybody need to go through all these questions? No? Anybody? Okay. And to answer your question, some of your things are relatively easy, like in, number one, what year was the first day? They could find a sign that's actually saying that at our booth or something. If they want to go there, we can have that up. The sign that you're talking about, the William Bartram sign, they could identify where that's at. That's actually on the west side there. There'll be, different types of birds. There'll be all kinds of this stuff all through there. If you want to do it, you'll see when everything's set up. But it'll be hard to do something like that right at this point. What you're saying? Do you want them to go find it, describe where it's at?
No, I don't need them to describe where it is. I'm just saying that, like, because isn't the whole point of a scavenger hunt is for them to be traveling around to find the thing? So,
They
I was
definitely
just
will be
trying
doing
to
that.
conceptualize, like, how they would be doing that.
Well, what I've been doing is I tell them the scavenger hunt, everything's in or around the park, and off you go. But I have to make sure to say that because they'll be traveling down the road.
So when I put the questions together, and this, admittedly, this was from Ruth's list, so I'm not taking full credit for this. But I kind of figured with the plastic items and the materials that are recyclable, there's the solid waste district, there's us as well, Natural Resources Board, they can ask. Of course, there's Google and search engines too. But the William Bartram sign, and then moving across the park to the statue near the river for the Paul Krogel sign. They'd have to go to the water filling station by the restrooms for question 6. Any of the vendors, they'd be moving around for number 7. I figured with number 8, they could either go to and visit the, I forget what time the oyster installation
12
is.
to 2.
Okay, so they may either learn it there, or it says ask, one of us. The restaurants, if they wanted to take a walk along the river, and then City of Sebastian, they could either ask us or again just kind of think about it on their own. And then finally, number 11, there are a couple. I think Audubon is going to have plants, and his native butterfly, they're going to be there
They're
too.
going to be there again.
So there are a bunch of vendors who are looking at kind of native planting, and actually I saw a couple of organizations that do the same thing. So I thought that they'd be moving around.
Mhm.
I wasn't sure exactly how specific to make it in case, businesses don't end up coming, or they're in a different place, or they're chatting.
Yeah. No, I mean, hearing you describe it, it sounds wonderful. So I think,
Okay.
and the idea of having maybe a sign at the NRB booth for the first question, so people can kind of, unless they just want to ask, we want to be around, so everybody knows, like, okay, what year was the first Earth Day celebrated, so that way we can tell them. But either a sign or verbally, I'm okay with either.
They'll have to come to our booth to get the scavenger hunt, and, we usually will have a volunteer helping out to give a clipboard and whatever, so that they can head to the different locations as they need to, but they have to come there originally. So any one of us who are there handing this out can say, if you run into difficulties, we can give you hints. So, I mean, we're trying to help them learn, and I'm happy to help them learn if they reach out.
I think one of the things probably to include on the scavenger hunt itself is how they'll be rewarded. And so I don't know how it went last year because I was out of town, but I know that in years past they were like, okay, what do I get? And I'm like, okay, well, we'll put it in, and there's the drawing for the prize. So that might be something to make clear at the bottom. Like, when you're finished, turn this in to the NRB booth to be entered in a drawing for a prize. Do we know what the prize is? What is the? Okay.
That's
missed
the
that,
prize
sorry.
that's donated by Sebastian Daly, right?
Right.
Oh,
Uh,
okay.
Now, we do have because we do have a lot of vendors that are donating prizes, do we want to maybe detract a few of them from the raffle to put towards the scavenger hunt? Or is that just too cumbersome, too unwieldy, and we'll just do the Sebastian Daily for the grand prize and that's it?
I would say, I mean, I don't think we need to, but if there are any that are kind of kid-oriented, you know, that might be a fun one, because the scavenger hunt is oriented towards those who are younger. So, yeah. We don't have to say up front how many prizes we're offering for the
Right.
scavenger hunt, so we, you know, we can ad lib.
Well, if everybody's cool with the list, I'm cool with it, so I'll just make sure this is formatted on the little slips like Kim had last year. And we still have the clipboards, so we'll be able to use those again for this year, so.
And utensils to write with.
Right, yeah, okay. I'll make sure we have some.
I think I may have some of those, like golf pencils. I use them as a teacher, so if you don't have anything, I think I have some boxes in my classroom, just let me know.
All right,
I'll be able to bring them home.
Thank you.
Is there any additional questions for scavenger hunt?
Are these all the questions, the 11 questions?
For now, if you want to add any
okay.
others, you can. And we're trying to keep it easy, stuff that's in the park, and keep them involved. And try to get the education of Earth Day across. And we got to remember, too, we got Arbor Day, too. So we need to ask about Arbor Day. It's a big part. It's Earth Day and Arbor Day celebration.
Are you like specifically referring to like the first question, or you?
Well, you can add it in there, or leave it just like it is, so you don't have to mess with it. But it is Earth Day and Arbor Day.
Question 11 has something related to trees.
Excellent. Thanks. Is there any other questions on any of this?
Because of the nature of this scavenger hunt, where there's a lot of things where, like, say they'll be finding out the number from the water fountain, how many bottles have been saved, or there'll be listing off a nondescript vendor, you know, because we don't know which one they'll choose for some of the answers. So do we need to have a, like, general answer sheet for ourselves just to reference, or do you think we're good to go pretty much as long as we can consult with one another?
A key sheet would be nice to have. This way we have the definitive answer. But most of the questions we know the answers to, or we can find out. It's going to be the same answer. That's going to be a changing as they go, but it's going to be close to there. So.
Yeah, and my thought for the, like, say the water bottle one, we take the number of what it says at the beginning of the day, and then any number upwards of that would be acceptable. But Nikki, because you made it, would you mind just writing out like a super quick, just the basic answers for some of the stuff, and for the stuff that's like the vendors or the bottle number, we'll fill that in as we go, you know, kind of thing.
Sure, yeah, I can certainly do that. And I mean, I intend to, I think Ruth and I were kind of signed up for the raffles and the scavenger hunt, so it'll be easy enough for, you know, the two of us to take those answers, quickly scan, but I'll have the answers as well. Yeah.
Okay, awesome. I was also thinking for the scavenger hunt, I don't know if we want to have maybe our volunteers with the clipboards, maybe stationed at different areas of the park to, you know, kind of like have somebody, a group of volunteers at the opposite end of the park be like, hey, are you interested in this scavenger hunt? In case there are people who haven't circled around by us yet, and then they'll just direct people back to our booth.
They've been coming up to the booth really good. So, and sometimes with this, less is going to be better at this point. But it is a
in
good
previous, I had COVID last year, I wasn't there, but 2 years ago when I did this, I had volunteers seek out specifically kids and families to do that. So they were walking around and trying to point out where activities occurred and that this was an activity. So that should happen. I think one of the things on this that's not answered, I think that just having Andy or the Sebastian Daly's prize is sufficient. You know, we can cull through and make sure we have good answers for whatever, and whatever remains, if there are some that don't have right answers, But we'll pick from that, and I don't know, does it make sense that Sebastian Daly gets to take credit for that and run, you know, they could, if they want, pick, or we can randomly pick and hand it to them, and they can take advertising for doing that or something.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, they'll want to promote whatever they're doing for Earth Day.
So the question always is, when does this get announced? How does it get announced? You know?
Right, what's our
So they
plan?
put their name in, how do they, we'll contact you later, or the winner will be announced by. It would be good to know what that is.
A timeline of all that. I think we did it last year, right at the, or when you were there last, we did it right at the end. And it was a little jumbled because everybody was leaving. That was the other thing. So we may want to make a definitive answer on that. Because all I did was just promote Sebastian Daly, the prize that he was giving away, but I didn't have a definitive time. This is when it was going to end. We just ended it and said, "You're the winner." And it worked, you know, but if you want to make a definitive time. And to answer the other question, does anybody want the volunteer to walk around like Ruth was saying and Felicia, because pointing out these events? Do you want a specific volunteer for that, or?
I mean, I just figured it would be any of, because if we have
okay.
a mass showing of volunteers who want to participate, then it'd be something good to have them do and walk around and solicit people to participate or answer any questions. Be like, oh, are you looking for this activity? Are you looking for that activity? And they can direct people around the park, or they could say, oh, go to the NRB if you have your finished, you know, scavenger hunt.
That's something we can address that day, though, right? Okay, good.
Could I make
Got
a
a question?
suggestion? Like whenever you print out the questions for the scavenger hunt, would it be a good idea to maybe put, you know, what time it's going to finish to have your answers in, and then the drawing will happen at such and such a time, so they know that there is a cutoff time?
And then we can do our grand drawing prize at that time, or shortly
Right.
thereafter.
Yeah. I think the best time to do it would be 3 p.m. because if we're waiting until the very last hour on the hour, then everybody's going to be taking off. So, and because there's going to be a performance between 3 and 4, that 3 p.m. would be probably the best time we have to make that announcement before the last performer goes on.
You got it. Is there any additional questions on what any of that we just spoke about? Seeing none, we'll move on to, looks like we're at vendor activities and coming up to Living Docks.
All right, so like I said before, I'm going to compile that list of the vendor activities and going to make kind of like a little directory, and then we can give that to maybe some of our volunteers who are going to be there so that they can help direct people across the park. If there's families with little ones who are looking for the little kids' activities, then they'll know how to guide them. And then also we'll have a list at the booth in case anybody comes up and is like, hey, I'm looking for this, or, you know, then we'll be able to answer those questions as well. And then we also may be designating volunteers to the vendor activities. I have had one vendor request volunteers. I haven't had anybody ask for any, though, but she asked for like 3 or 4 high school kids, if we have any, to participate in helping with her activity.
Would you please make several copies when you get the list complete?
Yes, absolutely.
Thanks.
Yeah. How many is several, should I ask? Just as half a dozen? Okay.
Are there any additional questions for vendor activities? Move on to Living Docks. And I have to remind everybody, if the shark doctor is in the boat and you're in the water, there may be a problem.
I'm not getting in this water, I know what's there.
He's actually looking out for any sharks. And
Felicia, you weren't there.
He'll warn us, maybe.
Yeah, we're in the water. We're looking up at the, you know, the shark expert in the boat. He's looking at us like, wow,
Photo
you guys.
documentation, look at it that way, photo documentation.
Oh, you guys are new at this, aren't you?
Well, we don't have any wraps, right? So there are no wraps available, so that item will be stricken.
All of this Living Dock is a work in progress. We're going to know what we're going to do when we're there at noon. We've gone and looked at some of these reefs. Felicia and I went out this last week with Bub, looked at one of the reefs that had washed ashore behind Krabby Bill's, went out to Public Works and looked at the one that was out there. It's light enough that we can transport it and move it over, along with, we're trying to accumulate a couple of the mesh sheets and some of the oyster shells and wraps to try to at least build a few for show and tell and demonstrate. But this has been complicated by the fact that as of last year, for us to put any wraps in place and to work with these pilings requires a permit. And the Army Corps of Engineers,
Well,
unfortunately.
probably not. I looked it up, and that is aquatic restoration, and that does fall under the blanket permit that they issue every year.
Okay, well, that we're gonna have to verify because Lisa and Felicia have been working on this, and that's kind of been an impediment to us being able to move ahead. But I know for a fact, I'm pretty sure, that one of the wraps is very loose and is likely to fall off before Earth Day. So that it likely can be recovered and brought over to the beach where we did an examination of the fouling community that was on those mesh mats. So we'll at least have that. If we're able to conjure up a way to manufacture a few of these wraps, even if we can't place them, we can still get volunteer involvement in creating a few of these. We'll talk about the general aspects of filtration, of settling out of fouling organisms, and the usual kinds of things that Thomas and I banter back and forth. And we'll do the best we can. Felicia's done a lot of homework in looking up these oyster reefs and the pricing on these. And one of the things that we've been discussing is the possibility of somehow purchasing several of these to be able to put in place along with the wraps so that we can demonstrate the different ways in which settling can occur. Thomas is a little bit leery of the reefs because of the other fouling organisms that are beyond what we hope to have settle out. Oysters, clams, other materials that are good filter feeders. Algal contamination would kind of interfere with a little bit of that, but nevertheless, good demonstration. So we're gonna be making this up as we go, and I think Felicia can look more into whether or not we actually have any permits. She's been talking with agencies down in Vero and Martin County and whatnot about some of these and how to expedite the permitting process. So we're just gonna have to play this by ear, frankly.
Thank you very much for that, Dr. Carrier, and if you need help with that process of getting that wrap picked up, I'll be glad to help you.
And so what we have planned as of right now is that we're definitely going to bring the floating reef that was dislodged during the storm. That one's going to be brought down from Public Works over to Indian River Drive or near the lagoons. That way we can do at least the talking part of the living docks and show people one form of a possible reef structure. I'm in contact with Melissa Meisenberg from Indian River County Coastal Engineering. She's their lagoon specialist, and we're working on acquiring mats from them. Now, they do have mats, the quality of the mats, because they may be older and maybe possibly degraded by the weather. We don't know if we'll be able to even make use of those. If we can, I would absolutely love to acquire those, and then we can have people participate in making the wraps for Earth Day, which means I would have to also acquire the galvanized wire that we would need, but I don't think that should detract from our budget too much, so we'd still have a good chunk of money left after. And then possibly, going forward throughout the year, especially because if you guys want to pursue this as part of Sustainable Sebastian, and I know the mayor is very a big supporter of the oyster projects, and so I can see that this Living Docks isn't going to end with Earth Day, that we will keep pushing this forward as far as we can, and as continuously and ongoing as we can. But as of right now, with the Living Docks for Earth Day, we're kind of in this tight spot where, based on what I've been told, we don't have enough time for the permitting process. If I had known that permits would have been acquired, 3 months, permits would need to be acquired 3 months ago, I would have certainly started that ball rolling. I didn't find out until a few weeks ago that you know, that was even something, and apparently it was started April 2020, with the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers, it was April 2022 that the permit requirements were put into place. So this is fairly recent. With now, there may be other agencies like the DEP that require permitting that I'm not aware of, and I know there have been larger scale projects that the city has done that have required permits, but because this is much smaller scale, haven't found anything in our documents indicating that permits were utilized for the previous Living Docs events. So I will absolutely keep you guys posted as we march through that and see what else we can find. And also, on that note, because I was kind of feeling a bit desperate when it comes to the Living Docs stuff, and I was like, what are we going to do if we don't have the mats? So I started looking into other companies and organizations that may produce restoration products that can be utilized, and I happened to stumble across a company called BESE, Ecosystem Restoration Products, and they're actually based out of the Netherlands. But I've been in contact with them, and I'm hoping that maybe at some point soon I can set up a meeting time to talk to them about, you know, potential of things that we can work with them on. I actually have documents that I can show you on the projector based on their projects, and I figured, or their products, sorry, not projects, but their products are really interesting, and even if we don't have the opportunity to work with them, I think this is a really fascinating thing that I did want to share with you guys as far as oyster restoration projects go. So they do have these mesh bags, and the thing about their products is that they are biodegradable. Now, the time frame with which they will biodegrade isn't certain yet. They're still doing testing to figure out how long exactly it will take. According to their info, it takes maybe 5 to 15 years. And this particular product is their mesh bag. They do have matte versions that they've used for seagrass restoration projects. That may also be a possibility for oyster restoration projects as well. But I'm happy to share this information with you guys as well. If you can see in the this bottom corner right here, that's the matte structure that they use for the seagrass projects. Now this particular product, the mesh bag, if we were, say, to buy anything from them, because I did want to inquire about the prices just to see, is it even possible that we could acquire something from them for a project in the future. A full roll from them, which is 600 meters, so it's quite a lot, is approximately $481 $7, and then shipping costs would be about $163.07. And because they're based in the Netherlands, so it's, shipping costs is going to be quite high. They do have a person that works for their company that is working with their Florida-based projects. So if there's any partners that they have over here, they're hoping to visit their, Florida partners at some point soon. So maybe there's a chance we could work with them further. But of course, this is just very preliminary and very tentative. So I have nothing concrete. I just thought that this would be good to share with you, especially since we are talking about the Living Doc stuff. Excellent. And I was really hoping that maybe there'd be a chance they could kind of be a guest at one of our NRB meetings, but considering the time difference, it just doesn't work for them. Yeah.
Well, greatly appreciate that deep dive into that, Felicia. I'll turn on some mic here. We greatly appreciate that. Is there any other questions on the Living Docs part? And then if seeing none, we'll move on to volunteers. And
I will continue to work closely with the Boys and Girls Club contact as well as the charter middle school contact to define how many volunteers we have and then help to see if we can have a schedule for them and assignments for them, so it'll be a little more organized. So At the moment, I don't have a number, but I am in contact, and since the last meeting, the charter middle school has agreed to join in the fund.
And as of today, I don't know if this is actually going to happen or not, but a little birdie told me that there might be a chance that the JROTC at SRHS might be interested in volunteering. Of course, I haven't been in contact with them myself, so I don't have any confirmation. But if they happen to reach out to us, I will definitely make sure we coordinate with that and see if we do end up with some more volunteers for the event. As far as their activities, I do have a page in the packet, I don't know if you guys had seen that, of possible activities for them. If there's anything that I should add to the list, let me know.
The thing from Donna gets added to the list.
Oh.
So the assistance for unloading and reloading, beginning and end of day for the art work. Request of 3 individuals if you want to know that. At both times.
And just about, would you say 3 people or so?
3 at the beginning of the day, 3 at the end of the day. So it would be like 7 to 8 and then 3 to 4.
Yeah. I'm sure we can definitely make that work. Once I have the list of vendor activities as well, I'll make sure to get that to you so that way we know if any vendors need assistance. And we can ask them as they're checking in, be like, hey, thanks for being here. Do you need any assistance? The one vendor that has requested, she'll get them as a priority because she's already requested volunteers. But if otherwise, we'll just offer them to the vendors as they come in. And, yeah.
Ruth, do you have any other questions for volunteers? Sharita, I see your name down there. Do you have anything on that?
I'm just waiting to be told what. I'm just waiting to be told what to do.
You got it. Anybody else have any questions?
Yeah, and for you, Sharita, for the day of, I imagine it'll be a lot of directing them where to go, making sure they're in the right spaces, because as of right now, there's not really much, this is the kind of hang tight period until the day of, and the day of is going to be when I think most of it, everything is going to actually kick into gear. So if there's anything, although of course, I'm always open to suggestions if you're willing to, if you want to do something and you see something on the list, you're like, oh, hey, I can take something on. I'm more than happy to not do that. You can
It sounds
take
good
it on.
so far. There's so much going on, but it's looking great so far. Any other questions on volunteers? Seeing none, we'll move on to the NRB booth, all of us. Looks like we need volunteers to fold brochures, and we need a seed packet workday.
Now, about the brochures, Lisa and I talked about it, and we had discussed possibly not even doing brochures and just doing the little card, the postcard with the QR codes. So that way, less paper, less waste. The QR codes take people to all the information. I know we are going to have possibly some older attendees at the event who may not understand how to use QR codes. So we can have whatever information we have. I still have printouts of a lot of the information in the office that we can use. And if we need to, I'll make sure we have some stuff, but I don't know if we're going to need to have a whole session of brochure folding, because if we're going to stick to the QR code postcards, then it just won't be necessary.
Does everybody here like the idea of just the postcards? Does anybody have any alternative suggestion? Yeah, we'll do the postcards. That sounds great.
Let's try to keep track of the requests that we get for something other than QR codes and determine what we do in the future, because I remember last year at the booth, we passed out the cards, and yet we did have older folks who weren't so savvy with cell phones and iPads and whatnot ask for some printed copy. So if we can just keep track of it this year and determine whether or not that's something we want to add back in future years, I think
good idea.
That'd be a good idea.
And I'm sure as technology advances and time goes by, the QR codes and the brochures will still keep parting ways. Let me see. Seed packet workday?
Yes. All right. So, like I said earlier in the meeting, the dates that I had proposed were kind of arbitrary based on my availability. If there's better days that we can get most of you guys together in a room to put the seed packets together, because now we actually have everything, including the stamp. I just got it the other day. I'm very excited that we have it. It is the perfect size to fit on the envelopes. So, now we can just put the stickers towards actually giving them out to people rather than, using them for the seed packets. So,
What was your first choice day for seed packet day? What was the first day?
April 11th and April 18th.
What kind of response did you get?
I got a very mixed response from all of you. There was like, I can't be there, or this day or that day, or these times work for me, only on, at certain time thresholds. So that's why I figured maybe it's just better to talk about it while we're here together. Sharda?
Would it be possible for you to divvy up the seeds in like little batches and just give us a little kit, and we can do it at home?
I mean, yeah, I guess so. I just have to get a bag big enough to do that. That would be.
Or I would be more than happy to come in and do that, and figure out about how many, packets and seeds and stuff. So if anyone wants to do it, they could. I mean, I don't mind doing it at all.
You just gotta pick a date.
Well, I've only got, of the 2 days she gave me, I can only do it on the 18th.
All right, you have one for the 18th. Anybody else?
I can do it on the 18th, but we're really jamming it up. I
That's
mean,
too late.
Yeah,
that's-
that's
that's
like 3 days
That's
way
too-
more.
I mean, I already said I could do the 11th. Is there anybody else that can do the 11th?
I can do the 11th.
What time during the 11th? What
It
time
would
during the
be
day?
like 3 o'clock.
Yeah, at the earliest. If
3
we
to
needed to,
4.
we could probably do it later, but.
At the art club?
Yeah.
And I guess that depends on how long you're willing to have the art club open, for the NRB to be there.
Well, I think if we put in an hour and a half or so, we'll be done.
Oh.
I think if we get enough people doing it.
Yeah, I think 3 of us could jam it out in no time. What, we had 3 or 4 of us last year?
Yeah.
So you,
And
We
one
don't, and we don't
musician?
have to stick the labels on, because we're only gonna be,
Right.
is this a self-inking stamp?
It's not, it's a wooden stamp. They didn't have any self-inking stamps that were big enough. Otherwise, they were gonna be like the little like address label size. So I found one that's actually gonna take up the size of the
So
envelope.
we have a stamp pad too?
I do, yeah, I have a stamp pad for that.
Okay.
Could I make a suggestion? Because I cannot be there on the 11th. So can I take the pad and the ink and stamp all the things for everyone?
Yes.
Would that be okay?
Yeah, oh,
So-
absolutely.
Okay, so then, can I do the pads with the envelopes?
And you can do that
I'll be responsible for
anytime.
that.
Mhm.
Are
And
we,
then on the 11th, everybody will, who
Exactly.
can
So
be
I
there can get together and do the.
Yeah, and then we can do the seats.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
So what would be a good time for me to come by and pick up?
I mean, I can run to the office after the meeting is
Let's do
over
that.
and give them to you, because, yeah, I have everything in the office.
careful what you wish for. Did we decide on a time? 3,
3
3:30?
o'clock, yeah.
So 3 o'clock
On the 11th.
The 11th? And who would be available for that?
I'm gonna try to schedule,
I'll be there.
so we definitely got 2, 3. So-
If she's already stamped the envelopes, then
It
it's
won't
a
be-
pretty
it won't be
simple
hard.
task. Because
Yeah.
last year, in addition to the seed packets, we also did the folding of the
At
brochures.
the same
Right.
time,
Oh,
yeah.
mhm.
So that's taken out of the mix.
Yeah, we'll be good.
Okay, so it looks like April 11th at 3 PM at the Art Center for Seed Packet Day. All right. People love those seed packets too, by the way. Are there any additional comments on NRB booth or anything we just spoke about?
I just wanted to make one comment. I agreed to do the photography for the day. So as things come up, in addition to what Felicia wants, as things come up that look worthwhile, the art display, for example, or other things that the volunteers might be doing or something, give me a shout. I'll be around, probably around a walkie-talkie somewhere along the line. And then my wife is gonna do the photography of the living dock, so
Oh, wonderful.
we'll keep that going. But give me a shout, and we're set up. We can do just about any photography you want, so just let me know, and we'll try to get anything special that you might identify.
Thank you for that, Dr. Carey. Is there any additional comments on anything for the NRB booth? Okay, seeing none, we'll move on. Stormwater, FEMA booth, and advertising.
All right, so, Josh and Eric are supposed to be there. I think Ross may also be there with us for the day. So that's wonderful. I'm working with them to, compile whatever information we need, to have for their stormwater stuff. And also working with Michelle on the stuff for FEMA that needs to be at that booth as well. So that's not anything you guys need to worry about. That's more of on the city side of things. And then as far as setup goes, depending on which booths, between 5 and 8 that you guys choose to take, if you take whatever space we end up taking for NRB, city will take the other spaces. So we'll work it out. I guess we can go ahead and move on to advertising if that's cool, unless anybody has any comments.
Donna, got anything?
All right.
Well, Felisa has printed out, a whole lot of extra posters here. If any of you want to take them, we're distributing. We have a whole list of places we're taking them to, but if you have a favorite restaurant or a bank or a doctor, you can certainly take them to your favorite people around in the city here. I have a list of all the places that we've already taken them, but there's extras here, so I would suggest all of us take a couple and just, put them in your car so that if you go somewhere and you say, oh, I'm at Wendy's drive-thru, will you pull one up here?
Awesome.
Like that. So, and as far as the online stuff, are you going to take a shot at that?
I actually started a little bit today. There is one of the outlets that they use the same platform as one of the other outlets. So they don't apparently that platform doesn't like having redundancy. So I'm not sure if I'll get it on both of those sites, just because of the way the platform is set up. But I've submitted to Florida Today, Hometown News, Brevard Cultural Alliance, and Willie Miller's Art Blast, just to see if she'd be willing to post for us as well. So now our info is in a few new places, and I have Donna's list of the remaining places that we can submit to. So I'm going to keep plugging and chugging and sending our information out there to as many places as I can. It also just occurred to me, I don't know if I had said this to anyone, but if there are local grocery stores that are willing to post this stuff, please share the information with them. When I used to be with Publix at Riverwalk shopping centers, occasionally there would be posters posted in the front windows for local events. So that's something that we can consider as well. So if you guys have a copy of the flyers and you go to your favorite Publix or your favorite Winn-Dixie or whatever, and they're willing to post it, that would be extremely helpful as well.
I would like to thank the Sebastian Daily for running one article so far.
Oh, yes.
Just
You've seen it. Okay, wonderful. I actually haven't seen. I had been in contact with both Tina and Andy Hodges, and I just hadn't seen what they had produced about it. So I'm glad that you've seen it. So it's good to know that it's out there.
Is he going to be there that day doing something live?
They're going to bring us the banner that's going to be on the stage, promoting them. I don't know.
Because sometimes, he has his live thing that he does and he puts it on YouTube afterwards.
Oh.
He has you could probably ask him if he wanted to come and interview you about it. Like he does that with the mayor and other city and with Charles one time. And, it's only like a little 5-minute thing, but it basically, then he puts it on YouTube.
Oh, okay. So you would, as like an advertisement for the event,
Yeah.
not necessarily the day
ahead of it, yeah.
Okay. That'd be interesting. Maybe I can talk to him about that and see.
Especially since he's giving a prize.
Yeah, that'd be more exposure for them too. Be like, oh, come participate and potentially win a prize from Sebastian Daily. So.
Perfect. Any other questions about advertising?
So did you do a press release too, police?
The, I haven't done any, honestly, I don't fully understand the difference between like a press release versus like what Sebastian Daly has put out for us, or I don't know if the information would be any different truly, if it's all going to be essentially the same. And I'm not sure like, if that would just be, me posting it on the Sebastian website, or, I'm very novice.
Okay, we'll talk about that later.
Okay.
Yeah, there's a process for the press release format and where they want it sent to, but Donna's will know that.
Yeah.
Is there any additional questions for advertising? All right, seeing none. We'll move on to items from the city of Sebastian.
All right, so like I said, we're gonna have the walkie-talkies. They're gonna bring the wagons for loading and unloading. Donna, you had requested, a table or two?
Just 1 6-foot table's good.
Okay, yeah, we'll make sure you have that for and the numbers that you see here on the, in the planning, notes, for the amount of tables and whatnot, that's what we're gonna have. If anything needs to change for next year, we'll just take note of that and then move forward. But this is all the numbers that Kim had from last year, so I wasn't planning to change anything unless we see the need to. We are going to have, actually, the numbers for the bleachers are different on the, I hope it's on your map. If not, that's my bad. The one I gave you. Oh no, it is there. We're gonna have 3 bleachers facing the stage and then 1 facing the concrete pad. And like, like with everything else, if it doesn't work this year, we'll change it for next year. Barricades are only going to be where the reserved parking area is, for the vendor and unloading zone, which actually on your map, we've swapped it from the vendors and the vendor loading and unloading zone and the food trucks that are in that zone. They've just been flipped around, but it'll still be blocked off for them, as need be. The space on blocking, between Speedway and the Cavcore parking lot, that's gonna be barricaded, because of the waste management event, and then inside the Cavcore parking lot, that's going to be barricaded as well. Getting ahead of myself, the volunteer police officers will be stationed at between Speedway and Cavcore near that barricade. There'll also be one on Indian River Drive and Sebastian Boulevard, and then there'll be one at the crosswalk on Indian River Drive coming from the park. And that individual is going to be stationed there specifically during the Living Docs event, in case there are people crossing back and forth. I don't believe I have it listed on here, unfortunately, but I believe that the volunteer police in the other 2 locations will be there, starting at 8:30 in the morning, and then I believe they'll be there to noon. Right. And then for our budget, everything that you see here is what is projected as of right now. If we do have to acquire the galvanized wire, then that hasn't been factored in yet, but we still have a fairly decent remaining balance. So we have over $860 left. The $75 for the NRB lunch is projected. I don't actually know how much it's going to cost, but I'm going to aim to keep it in that ballpark, just for ease of use purposes. But you can see what I've paid for everything so far, or what is going to be paid, for the entertainers, their checks that they will receive in total, the permit, the Sustainable Sebastian stamp, and the seeds, and the stuff that goes, all the little event things. So we're doing really good so far. And so, like we talked about with the Living Dock stuff, there might be a chance later in time to utilize some of our remaining funds for more oyster-related projects. So we'll see how much we have left over, and hopefully we can put some towards maybe a new floating reef, or maybe some, of the biodegradable mesh, or whatever, we deem is most fit.
Is there any additional questions from anybody on the board on anything we just spoke about as far as items from the city or the budget?
I just have one question for you. Last year, we had, at our board meeting after the show, after the Earth Day, we gave out the prizes to the kids, the poster. So it needs to go on the agenda for the May meeting. And I would prefer, we do it under announcements, right? So it'd be early in the.
Oh, okay.
Okay.
So that's when you award the prizes, was at the meeting immediately after?
And they'll come and they'll bring their family.
Oh,
They're very excited about it, so.
wonderful. Okay, yeah, so we'll make sure there's room for them on that agenda for that. How do you, do you just normally like send them an email, say, hey, you won, this is how you?
I usually take the posters back to the school after the event with the list of the winners, and they get ribbons. So they'll have the ribbons already, so they'll know who wins, like that week after.
And we make it a big thing when they come here. They're announced, they all come up, they show their posters right here. The place is, that's one of the times we are kind of full.
Yeah. It's kind of fun.
Yeah.
Yeah, for 10 minutes, okay, I'll take the 10 minutes, take what I can.
I was just wondering about how we get the word out to them to come to the meeting. If you send like another notification to the teachers who would notify the students, like, oh, you're going to be acknowledged at the NRB meeting.
I'm sure they remember, but I will remind them.
Is there any additional comments on budget or items from the city? Felicia, do you have any additional comments on any of this?
I wish I had something that was coming to mind.
Oh, that's fine.
As of right now,
No,
but-
you're doing great. Less is better at this point. Anything you can cut out and make it less at this stage of the game is great. Me personally, I would just like to thank everybody on the board for being here and for doing all this work. This is the highlight of our year, pretty much is how I've been doing it. The members of the board include Dr. Jeff Carrier, Ruth Callahan, Donna Ware, myself, Charles Stadelman, and Thomas Carano, Nicole Mosblek, Sharita Billman, and Marcus Bradley. And I'd like to thank everybody personally for representing Sebastian so well for the Natural Resource Board, and the City of Sebastian is going to really enjoy this Earth Day coming up. Is there any additional questions on anything we've spoken about tonight from anybody on the board?
I have a really good one.
Okay.
What time are we supposed to be there?
In the,
You just reminded me of something very important that we need to talk about. Thank you, Shard. Sorry. But yes, what time do you guys normally show up in the morning? Now, I know you guys normally prefer to do the staking out of where the booths are going to go earlier, much earlier than
we need to
set
get
up
those
time.
flags from you. So obviously, we've got, 100 booths. We need 200 or plus flags, because each booth gets 2 flags. And we need a little black marker so we can number the flags, 1, 2, 3, 4. We show up there a couple hours before dawn. We're usually there like 5, box of donuts and a jug of coffee.
Yeah, you're usually there about 5:30 with donuts and coffee.
Oh, am I now?
Yeah.
Surprise.
Right, yeah, and then get ready for the gopher turtle. But no, we get there real early, we start measuring it out, and then we're really there all day from that point on. You try to just stay there, because you never know what's going to show up, first of all. everybody it's just, everything's in motion at that point. So we get there super early. I try to stay there throughout the whole day. Any problems, really, you can shoot them my way because I'm on the stage and I can pretty much tell everybody everything from that point.
Other members of the board usually show up at 7:30, 8, somewhere around there, because it takes all of us to put together this gopher tortoise habitat and set up the tables, the tents and whatnot, because all Charles and I do to begin with is set out 200 flags and get the location squared away.
So do you think 7:30, 8 o'clock would be a good time?
Honestly, I think for the board, I would have said 7 because that's when vendor, unloading time is starting. And so if I could have everybody there at the start of the event, that would be ideal. Especially because if we need help directing them, making sure they know where they're going and, making sure everybody's getting along first thing in the morning. Like, okay, who's going where? Okay, no, you're actually in this spot. Sorry, you're not there. Making sure everybody's doing okay.
The vendors are supposed to start setting up at 7 a.m.
Yes.
And if you guys want to show up there at 7, somebody will be there.
I'll
Pretty much
definitely
like
be
that.
there
If you're
at
not there at
7
7, don't sweat it. Don't drive 100 miles an hour. We want it to be a safe event, and we'll deal with whatever issue comes up.
Yeah.
And adapt and overcome will be the catchphrase of the day.
Now, you did talk about, what Sherida reminded me of and what you've spoken about is the actual setup of the flags. I was advised that we actually set up the vendor booth locations, making sure we know where they're gonna go the night before, rather than the morning of. Now, I know that's not what you're used to,
Why would we do it the night before?
to make sure everything's in place, and we don't have to be there that early in the morning to make sure all the locations are set up and designated. And you'd hope people wouldn't mess with us and they wouldn't, rip out our flags, overnight, but yeah,
Jeff,
that was just what I was told.
How do you feel about that? You want to do it in the morning or the night before? It's me and you doing it.
Yeah, I'd rather do it in the morning.
Me too.
Frankly. I worry
I'm a
about
morning
vandalism
person.
and things like that. It's just the two of us getting up
The thing is
early.
too, that day is so long, and by coming in the night before, it just makes that day even longer. And really, I'm still working full time. I'll be working in probably till midnight, and then I'll come in at 5 and start Earth Day. That's pretty much what my day is right now. Today, I already worked, 8, 12 hours, and we're here. So, and the simpler we can keep it, the better. I do appreciate the idea, but if Dr. Carey thinks we can do it in the morning, I'll commit to that.
We've done it the past 3 years early in the morning, so may
And
as
if
well
something
continue.
comes up, we can always fall back on doing it the night before, because again, it's a fluid situation, but
We do have vendors come in earlier than 7, and so it's good to have some people on site so we can direct them to where they're going. As they're gonna wanna come in, they're gonna wanna get a parking spot, they're gonna wanna get the best, get their tables early and all this.
what do you guys think? 7 in the morning or the night before? On the board, you guys, we good with the morning?
Whatever you want.
Doesn't matter. Okay, I'm good with the morning.
Charles, are you saying that you two would do the vendor things?
Yes.
Because
yeah.
there's only like how many, 4?
There's 100 booths that we put
No,
out.
no, I mean, I'm sorry, I thought you were talking just the food guys.
Yeah, no, we do the booth markings, what we're talking
I see.
about. And then, all we do is that we take the map and a measuring tape and we bust it out.
Okay.
And I was intending to be there with you guys first thing in the morning. I do have,
With donuts and coffee.
When are the volunteer police coming?
the volunteer police, I believe, the one on Indian River Drive is only supposed to be there from like 12 to 2. The other two, I believe, are supposed to set up at 8:30. They'll be there in the morning.
Are there any additional comments or questions on anything we discussed tonight about Earth Day? This is your last chance. Not hearing or seeing any? We'll ask for item number 9 on our agenda is new business. There is none. Item number 10 is, go ahead,
I'm
Felicia.
so sorry. I didn't want you to adjourn before, and I don't want to
Thank you,
drag
no,
this
that's
on.
fine.
But, I was just curious if we had a plan for May. I know that it's really important to plan this, but having a meeting that's only about planning an event is kind of frustrating, when you want to do other things as well for the Natural Resources Board. And that in no way is, please, it's been a long day for me too, so I'm sorry if that came across short. But I just want to make sure that when we come back in May, that we can kind of hit the ground running, because I know summer, we end up having a pause too.
Excellent, excellent.
As well. So do we know what's on tap for May in terms of what we can accomplish or what we might be able to discuss?
My plan for May was to start tackling our Sustainable Sebastian tasks list and anything that we can start pushing forward as soon as possible. Now, I don't have an idea of what that means just yet. So one of my responsibilities that I have to do between now and the next meeting is figure out what are, like, as we had discussed about way before Earth Day planning began, what our priorities are, what we need to start pushing forward with, what we have the capability of pushing forward with right now. And I need to talk that over with Lisa as well, to see what we can aim towards as soon as possible and start getting, like as soon as Earth Day is over, hit the ground running with whatever we can. And because the Sustainable Sebastian tasks list is quite long, if we can prioritize a few things to get moving on. So that's my goal. I can't say if there's anything else besides Sustainable Sebastian that's on my mind as, besides, I'm not sure how I just flubbed my words there, but I hope I got my point across that, Sustainable Sebastian is the priority.
The landscape management proposals that we're working on, we'd like to get started on that. We were talking about doing the landscape and the rules and regulations going on with landscaping in Sebastian. That's kind of been on the back burner. We'd like to start pushing that ahead.
Right, absolutely. I mean, if that's one of the big priorities that you guys want me to push for as far as like your Sustainable Sebastian tasks list, I'll make sure that that's at the, one of the top ones on the list. If you guys have any ideas of the things you really want to push forward with immediately after Earth Day, please let me know. Send me emails, give me a call, if there's anything that comes to mind. And yeah, like I said,
So, before, in the past, we had a spreadsheet that had where we were starting from, what things we've attained, and where we're going. And if you could find that and give it, because there's new members here on the board.
right.
And I think we have to start with that spreadsheet so that everyone can get up to speed to where are we with all those things on that Excel spreadsheet.
Right. Okay. Yeah. So I'll make sure you guys get a copy of the spreadsheet for that meeting.
Excellent. Those are actually really good new business items. Thank you. Is there any other comments or anything that we've discussed tonight, or anything else for new business? Not hearing any. Item number 10 is adjournment. Can we get a motion for adjournment?
I'll make a motion to adjourn.
Thank you, Tom. Second?
I'll second it.
Thank you, Donna. Everybody in favor say aye.
Aye.
This meeting is adjourned. Thank you.